Hi, I'm Brad Humphrey, and this is Learning While Listening. In this podcast, we want to continue in our series called The 7 Steps to Worker Retention. Today's focus is coaching and mentoring. In this 7 Steps to Worker Retention series, we look at 7 steps or efforts that contractors must incorporate into their future strategies or risk losing everything that they've built. A quick reminder for you is presented in the 7 steps. Let me share those with us again. First of all, step 1, onboarding. Step 2, the 90-day plan. Step 3, skill training. Step 4, coaching and mentoring. Step 5, engagement participation. Step 6, responsibility enhancement. And step 7, performance review. Now, if you thought that some of the previous discussions that we've had about onboarding or skill training were heavy, you'd better prepare to use your skid loader to move step 4 along today. Coaching and mentoring, our focus for the day, is not for the faint of heart, if they are executed appropriately, that is. Talked about widely, but practiced inconsistently in most construction companies. While all great contractors and field leaders see the need for coaching and mentoring, there is still so little of it being completed today. With the shortage of really great talent beating on most contractors' doors looking for work, it is even more critical that a clear, consistent, and thorough effort is made to incorporate coaching and mentoring into the fabric of any construction company. But what is coaching? What is mentoring? And aren't they really just the same? Well, no. They may be distant cousins of each other, but they're not synonyms. Not all coaching involves mentoring, and not all mentoring necessarily involves coaching. Although there is a better argument that when one mentors, they are making use of similar coaching skills or strategies. No argument for me on this one. But let's address what the subtle differences might be between the two leadership efforts, coaching and mentoring. Coaching is the act of bringing a critical eye while observing the performance of an employee and making timely suggestions, corrections, and just as timely, providing words of encouragement. While both coaches and mentors seek improvements in others, it is the coach who more often breaks down the game film of performance and addresses specific skill step by skill step work effort to redirect the individual towards some improvement level. Mentoring is the act of bringing counsel and wisdom to an individual in order to lead them to see the bigger picture, perhaps assisting the person to see where they could go in their current job or their career. The mentor might perform some coaching with their protege. Such coaching is more short-lived, however, and more narrowly focused on assisting the individual to expand their boundaries about their potential and future possibilities, including the recommending to the individual resource areas and people who can assist their professional growth. Now, there are probably 100 ways to define coaching and mentoring. However, the definitions that I've just shared with you will keep you close to the really main priorities of both roles. Let me now raise just 2 more questions that most contractors should be asking about now. Why should I include coaching and mentoring in my present leadership approach? And secondly, is this effort really going to pay off? Well, first of all, both questions are fair to ask. In fact, another question that I often get from contractors is, why should I spend the time coaching and mentoring a high potential worker only to have them quit me and take on a job with a competitor? Well, we addressed that in one of our other podcasts on skill training, but again, suffering from such experiences can really put a sour taste in any contractor's mouth. However, again, my response to this is the same as my response in the other podcast on skills training. It stays the same. If you think education's expensive, try ignorance. Now, same line of thinking fits here. You don't coach or mentor your staff and employees, you eventually get a bunch of ignorant and poor performers working for you, if not worse. So let's go back and answer briefly the question I posed earlier. Why should I include coaching and mentoring in my present leadership effort? And is this effort really going to pay off? Well, first of all, coaching is needed because we have a less skilled workforce entering our industry today. There are a lot of diamonds in the rough just waiting to be discovered, and we're the ones that have to go in and mine those diamonds. Many employees new to the construction industry are afraid of asking questions and need coaches to address issues while building their confidence to ask questions. Because the days of just throw them in there and let them figure it out themselves are over, done. Coaching and mentoring has proven to shorten the learning curve, thus making employees more productive sooner rather than later. And just a few more points of interest here. Coaching and mentoring actually helps to improve the construction industry's image, allowing more people to see our industry as a possible career choice. Mentoring provides a line of sight for employees, assisting people to see where they could go down that road in their career. And finally, contractors who do not include coaching and mentoring in their growth strategies will simply die a slow death through downsizing their companies and living on hope that people with skills will hang around. Okay, now it may not be all that doom and gloom if you don't fully engage both coaching and mentoring, but not including these two key ingredients to employee retention will hurt you in a very deep way. The thoroughbred employee that I've written about and talked about will simply not view a contractor who does not coach or mentor as their long-term choice of who to work with and for. They also see that the lack of both leadership efforts almost always accompany lack of training and education. It's funny how these two groups go together. Now, let's now present a couple of ideas on how to make coaching and mentoring part of your leadership strategy, both personally and professionally and corporately. Your own success, and the greater retention of your current workers may be at risk. Let me share with you several tips to make coaching part of your retention strategy. First, make coaching part of every leader's role and responsibilities and part of yearly performance reviews. Second, provide training and education for leaders to learn how to coach. There are some right and wrong ways to coach, and you need to make sure your leaders are prepared for those. Thirdly, have coaches provide their senior leader with weekly updates on their coaching efforts. A fourth step, support the coaching effort by encouraging leaders to take the extra time here and there during the workday, on-the-job coaching. Fifth, conduct an informal assessment periodically with those who are receiving the coaching to determine the effectiveness of what they're being coached on. Sixth, overstress with your leaders to prepare, demonstrate, observe, and correct, what I call the PDOC. Prepare, demonstrate, observe, and correct. And the final few steps here. Encourage an additional 5 to 15 minutes of coaching sessions before and after work. Again, think positional coach in football, commenting on the game film with their players one-on-one. As the owner or senior leader, coach your staff to both serve as a model and inspiration for others to follow. And the last two, encourage your coaches to learn regularly through reading, listening to CDs, attending workshops that focus on the skill of coaching. And finally, hold all of your leaders accountable to coach and simply do not allow the slackers to propagate. Give your coaches a bit of leeway to coach in their own style, but make sure that they're doing it. Now, the list I just provided is not meant to serve as how to coach, but rather how to make coaching part of your strategy to retain workers. There are a number of books available on coaching, as well as a number of podcasts that I've done over the years, and certainly literature I've written, conferences I've led, but I'm not the only one talking about coaching, trust me. But wherever you find yourself and the leaders in the organization, determine to raise everyone's level of coaching and be consistent in this determination. Now, let me provide you a few short tips on making mentoring part of your retention strategy as well. While coaching is now a growing and expected role for leaders in our construction industry, mentoring may not always have the same requirement. Mentoring often engages fewer people since the process requires the mentor to be more seasoned, mature, and sincerely interested in really developing others in their knowledge, expertise, and future. Pay close attention to some of the tips to making a mentoring effort in your company a solid part of retaining your workers. Again, to begin with, first, identify potential candidates to serve as a mentor and educate them on how to be a mentor. Secondly, identify potential proteges, sometimes nicknamed mentees, who have displayed some trait or behavior that projects their potential or a deeper interest to rise in the company, to develop their skills further. With your selected proteges, educate these individuals as well on how to learn, how to receive feedback, and how to raise questions with their mentor. Consider then a matching of a mentor and a protege based in part on personalities, some common interests, and maybe what both parties can benefit from experiencing or the job areas that they're involved with. Beware that a crew foreman or a project manager is not always the best to mentor a worker who directly reports to them. But these same leaders should be coaching as well and mentoring. Another step to consider, encourage and allow the natural mentoring relationship to form. This often does happen, but not nearly enough. So you may have to be a little bit of an encourager there, almost a matchmaker, if you will. Another step, provide some time for the mentors and their proteges to meet periodically to discuss the issues, the concerns, the challenges facing the protege. This is one time that the owners and senior leaders will sometimes have to back off. If you're going to provide mentoring, you have to give people time to do that. Now, in some of the natural relationships, you may find that some of these individuals may be meeting outside of work, maybe for coffee in the morning, maybe even coffee for a Saturday morning visit. Encourage that, but don't always expect just that to happen naturally. Engage your mentors to update you or other senior leaders on how they perceive the mentoring process is progressing. Have the senior leaders visit the proteges directly and ask for the same type of feedback. Is it working for both sides? And then finally, keep a formal mentoring process limited to the number of employees or individuals involved. Let mentoring be viewed as part of a desired action that not everyone may take part. This isn't just a matter of making one-on-one assignments. This is about looking at who you have, the depth of your bench, and giving the time for those mentors, those seasoned veterans who have something to offer and want to, as well as those proteges who are looking to grow in their career. Now, similar to learning how to coach, there's also resources to use that provide educating a mentor on the nuts and bolts of mentoring. The role of a mentor is a great role for senior craftsmen and older field leaders who can provide more of the passing of the baton of construction knowledge to the next generation. Retaining our workers is hard work, no doubt about it, and coaching and mentoring are just one of the steps, remember, of the 7 to keep good workers longer. The longer workers hang in there with a contractor, and especially the more that a contractor can serve up to the employee about their trade, skills, and the specialty of construction involved, the longer and more often, the more loyal an employee can become. Nothing is easy about coaching and mentoring. It's not something that can be read about, but instead both represent very active engagement between experienced and skilled workers and leaders, sharing their knowledge, insights, and tricks of the trade with those needed to sustain a company. Begin your planning on how to build an effective coaching and mentoring process today. Start with coaching immediately and allow mentoring to begin to take root over time. Coaching is needed for every person in your organization. Position mentoring to provide for greater discussion and career building relationships with those who are high performance potentials. Hey, this has been another podcast to help you build a workforce that will stay with you for the long term. Good luck in your coaching and mentoring efforts.